Hey there everyone, Two-Tone back with my Incantation Ritual Toolbox deck. I've had a couple people ask me for like more gameplay videos showing how you would use it and stuff, and I decided why not, right? Might as well get this out while the NR festival is going on. And so basically the idea behind this deck, as I mentioned in my previous video, is to get a Magician of Chaos on the field with a Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon in hand. You know, you can keep popping your opponent's cards and you can float into your Chaos Dragon. The idea being like these are very powerful boss monsters in this, low power format, and ritual monsters have the downside of being hard to get on the field without minusing yourself too much, and being hard to summon in general. But thanks to cards like Chaos Forom being one of the few ritual spells in the format that you can like cheat monsters out with by using graveyard as material, Magician of Chaos cheating your Chaos Dragon into play, and the incantations letting you like get around some of the minuses of rituals, you actually have a pretty powerful engine that gets to strong boss monsters. So I chose this game as like the first one I'm going to show in this video because it shows kind of like how the deck works just platonically, right? So actually, well, my opponent won the die roll, but they made me go first. So Manju's great. You just summon Manju. I said in my previous video you could put in like Senjus and Sonic Birds too, and I think I have one of my next videos is going to show like a build that I did have the Sonic Birds in because I was trying to get the normal summon quest done. But Manju's obviously always great. It's your best normal summon. It's basically your only normal summon in certain builds. And so I'm going to normal summon Manju and go ahead and get my ritual monster. That's going to let me use my Pencilplume because Pencilplume needs a ritual monster. I can go grab my Talismandra, and then Talismandra can get my Blue Eyes. I've basically done the setup right. I've got a Impcantation Inception. Gonna get rid of those guys. Now any Imps I draw are really good with the Inception and Graveyard. I can drop my Magician of Chaos, obviously in the Geonator Transverser ignoring zone. And I've got a Dinomischus, which is great. Always this card, no deck should not be, like every deck should run 3 of this card. So my opponent plays a Pacifist, and one of the decks that this deck's really good against is Pacifist, and it kind of shows off how Dark Magician or Magician of Chaos works. It is Dark Magician right now, though. And it pops the card in response. So like it's kind of like, they never even get a chance to activate it. And like there was nothing he was going to be able to do to stop that, so he's going to drop a Megalith Smasher X, the typical normal summon in this deck, and Phantasmal Spiral Crash, which is like, basically if he attacks over my card, he can start getting Phantasmal Spiral cards, and I don't like that, so, I don't want to get rid of my Chaos Sorcerer, but, this is stopping him from getting more value, and it's a 2-for-1, and it's a 2-for-2 because I lose my Chaos Magician, or my Chaos Sorcerer, but it's not that bad, right? Oh, and I draw an Imp, and it's actually one of the better Imps. It's one that goes with a monster in hand, and I've got a Chaos Dragon in hand, so that's great. So I'm going to go use my Talismandra, get my Chaos Dragon, normal summon my Imp, get my other Candoll. Candoll's going to activate, and my opponent has Torrential Tribute. Now, this is kind of like one of the things Imps are bad against. Torrential Tribute is at 3 in the format. Most people are running 3, though I'm not in this deck for obvious reasons. It's really good against Imps, because Imps kind of force you to overcommit to the board and put a lot of material on the board that you might need for something else. But the nice thing about the Magician of Chaos Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon setup is you just float. I shouldn't have done this. I just clicked yes. I'm not used to playing with Paleozoics, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, summon. Oh wait, yeah, it's gonna die to Torrential. Durr. That was very silly of me. But I've got my Chaos Forom in hand, which is great because now if I draw a Magician of Chaos or search it out some way, like with a Manju, I can just summon it with Chaos Forom because Chaos Forom says you can use you can banish a Dark Magician from your graveyard, or Blue Eyes White Dragon, but the Dark Magician is the important part, to summon. So I could summon a Dark Magician, a Magician of Chaos with this Dark Magician in graveyard. But the important thing here is that I float into my Chaos Dragon, and I attack. Yeah, so that's like the reason why this is like one of the only good ritual decks besides obviously Megaliths is like, one, you have like easy ways to get, my opponent's just playing their cards doing nothing. One, you have easy ways to get into your cards with incantations. Two, you don't get punished for overcommitting because of cards like Magician of Chaos popping cards in response and Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon being floated into. And two, you've got decent recovery with cards like Chaos Forom letting you summon cards by using graveyard as material, which is really rare in this kind of rarity. Yeah, my opponent just has no answers, and I just keep attacking. Actually, I have an Incantation Thanatosis, which I could use in my Inception, but no need to. Just get it done and kill them and go on to your next match. So yeah, that's like the basic platonic ideal of how this deck functions. Get some Imps, drop your Chaos Magician. When it dies, drop your Blue Eyes, and like Blue Eyes is hard to out, especially once they've already had to burn through your Chaos Magician's responsive pop, and just attack over them. And your draws are usually kind of bricky once you get into this devolved game state because of drawing ritual monsters and ritual spells. But Chaos Form's a good spell in that situation. Thanatosis is good if you can get a ritual summon off. So yeah, that was game 1. I hope you guys liked that. I'm gonna get on to game 2. Alright, so here's game 2. This is the version I was talking about where I'd substituted some of my ritual spells with Sonic Birds. And this is actually a slightly different version. I was running triple Lord of the Red just to try it out because I was just grinding gems at that point. And I was like running Sonic Bird to get to the actual Lord of Red ritual spell, which I threw one of in my deck. It's not very good, but you can, you could tribute monsters from your hand for it, so it's not that bad. But yeah, so like I'm running Sonic Birds and, as well as Manjus here, and this is like a much grindier game, a much sillier game that I figured I might as well show off. It's pretty fun. So obviously I've got the only normal summon in my hand, just lead off with that with Sonic Bird. And I can use that to go ahead and get another Impcantation Inception, because this is actually Thanatosis. You might not have been able to tell, but yeah, Thanatosis, very powerful card. I'm going to lead off with that next. So basically, I have the means to summon this Magician of Chaos and go into my Talismandra to get my Blue Eyes. So this hand's great with Thanatosis, because I can Thanatosis and start popping their cards as soon as I summon something. Also, Candoll is a great Thanatosis target in my hand. I really only need to get one more ritual spell at this point, and that'd be Chaos Forom. Though the Lord of Red one's not that big a deal, and I can actually use Thanatosis to send this Impcantation Candoll to my deck and summon 2 on the field. So I kind of like get the Candoll effect off the Candoll in hand to get the card I want, and I've still got a Pencilplume to go after that, so I get way more material that way. So like this turns any one imp into 2 imps while getting that imp's effect, which is a nice way, because sometimes you actually want the effect, the summon effect of the imp in hand. Like this time I do kind of want Candoll plus Talismandra, and I can do that with Thanatosis. Also, pop a card on a ritual summon, really good. And it's an incantation card you can send with Inception. But my opponent MST, so all that was for naught. All that explanation doesn't really mean anything. But, it's a good card to run. It's good to have kind of 2 of in your deck because you really don't want to draw a third typically. But, I got my opponent's MST off the board, and that's fine. And I can just go ahead and summon Candoll, get Talismandra like you normally would. I'm going to save the Pencilplumes in my hand because I can kind of like recur value with them later. And I'm going to use my Inception. Also, I needed Talismandra, and I kind of... Like, if my Magician of Chaos gets destroyed, a Pencilplume is fine off with an Inception. So my opponent's going to Torrential Tribute. This is kind of the fun thing about Magician of Chaos. So obviously, rituals are inherently negative just to play them, right? As you can see, I sent 3 cards to the graveyard to summon this Magician of Chaos, though one of them was searched out for free, and one of them was searched out for free with Sonic Bird, so I kind of like made up those 2 cards. But now that my opponent's going to answer my Magician of Chaos with Torrential Tribute, I get to pop a Spell Trap, or any card really, in response. So I'd pop the Ring of Destruction. They're going to chain Ring of Destruction just for the damage, I guess. So I kind of like traded 2 for 1 there. That's kind of what Magician of Chaos does. And now they're going to blow it up, blow up the entire field. My opponent loses their monster to Torrential, and that floats my Magician of Chaos into my Chaos Dragon. Also floats their Rakea. They're playing Unchained Twins. Now, you might have seen this deck in the ladder. This is basically U-Bell Turbo. We'll get to that in a second. But now I can actually use my Impcantation Inception to summon my Pencilplume from deck by sacrificing a Pencilplume in hand, and I can get my Magician of Chaos back next turn. So now, I've restocked my hand with a Ritual Monster and a Ritual Spell, which is important. So, Pencilplume needs a Ritual Monster in hand to work next turn, and I had to do that. I had to get a Ritual Monster somehow, and I've already used my Talismandra effect. So I use my Pencilplume effect this turn by using Impcantation Inception, get my Magician of Chaos back from the graveyard. Now my Pencilplume is live next turn. Now the downside is I have gone through all of my Pencilplumes, so I've kind of like lost a little bit of my cycle ability of my Ritual Monsters that are already in rotation, but it was worth it to make sure my cards are turned on for next turn. I'm just going to go ahead and attack and do his Unchained Twin Rakea. Like, at this point, you kind of just have to. Like, even though they all kind of float into each other, it's just... Actually, I didn't attack into Rakea. I attacked into, what's his name? Aruha. But, yeah, they all just kind of float into each other. So, I can go ahead and get, I draw a Chaos Sorcerer, which is freaking great. It's going to be able to let me banish their card so it doesn't float. I can use Pencilplume, Magician of Chaos, summon my Talismandra to go get my Blue Eyes. Now I've got another Blue Eyes to float into. This is like the core concept of the deck, right? Let's go ahead and activate Incantation Inception. Now I am out of imps at this point for the Inception, but it makes any imps that I draw later worth using. So I go ahead and get the Magician of Chaos. And despite the fact that my Inception is turned off, I can still just drop a Chaos Sorcerer and exile their dude. They're going to Chalice in response, but thankfully, because they had back row, my Magician of Chaos gets an effect to pop their other creature. That's just great for me, right? It does let them float, but whatever. And the downside is I blew up a Sangan, so, net neutral on that one. But, it's still good. And this is such a back row heavy format that a card that pops a card in response to a back row being played is great. So I go ahead and attack into their Rakea with Blue Eyes. Rakea will float into Aruha. Attack into Aruha. And Aruha's going to float. You know it is. And if I had another attacker, Chaos Sorcerer already used its effect, so he couldn't attack, even though he was negated. It's a cost of the activation. Now my opponent just hard summons Mystic Tomato and attacks to my Chaos Sorcerer, and you might know where this is going. That lets them summon a Yubel. Great. And because they have an Unchained Twin on the board, they can pop it. That's them going to Terror Incarnate, and now I'm in a little bit of bad news, right? Because it wipes my board, gets rid of my Chaos Sorcerer, which is one of my outs to this card, and but I do get to float into my Blue Eyes. Downside is I can't attack into this card. It takes no battle damage, and if I attack him, I take the damage. I've only got, 2 hits left, so it's not quite a hard Earth. They can't attack into me, but I'm still kind of SOL, shit out of luck, answering this card with just my Blue Eyes. But my opponent's kind of screwed trying to answer my Blue Eyes with its Yubel, because I'm not going to destroy it. So at this point, I'm waiting to draw an out. Another Chaos Sorcerer would obviously do it. I've got plenty of Lights and Darks in the graveyard. I think I could just banish it. An Imp might be able to do it, because I could go into another card that like a destroy effect. But I draw an Impcantation Inception, which isn't the worst draw, because now, I can, if I get one of the Imps like Bookstone or Candoll, I can summon another Imp. I put up Magical Mallets, and then they draw into a Kaiju, and Kaiju my Blue Eyes, and then of course it gets blown up by Yubel. Great, so my problem is I can't just use any answer, because if this card gets removed from the field, they get the special summon Ultimate Nightmare, and that's a problem. You really don't want them getting into Ultimate Nightmare if you can help it. But it sets a card, this MST I drew finally turns online, pop a card. For turn 11, man, this game's going on a while. This just a stare down between 2 boss monsters. I draw another Ritual Monster. This is like one of the bad things about the deck is you can just brick on drawing Ritual Monsters. My opponent just Yubeling and they just keep drawing cards. But I'm just looking for any Imp at this point. Draw another Ritual Monster. Okay, well, great. This is the downside of a toolbox that doesn't work on its own merits. They set 2, which is okay, fine. Like, why didn't they had one of those cards in hand before? Why didn't they set it? One of these cards is a bluff. And then they get Battle Mania, and this card's actually pretty interesting in the U-Bell deck. It forces all your monsters to go into attack position. They can't change to defense position to stop, and they must attack. This means, and my Blue Eyes, despite not being blown up, is only immune to being destroyed by card effects. It's still affected by like general card effects like that. So I actually am going to have to attack. Thankfully, after 6 turns, I finally draw an Imp. Drop Imp Candoll, go get Talismandra. Talismandra gets my Relinquished, and this is my all-encompassing answer. It can remove Yubel without making it leave the field by equipping it, and that is a answer, right? Like, it doesn't get its effect. They're off their Super Yubel, the Ultimate Nightmare version, and now I can just attack a Blue Eyes. Now, I am short the damage, but like that was my only real way to play that. I do have an Inception in graveyard that I could have like used off Talismandra, but I didn't have any Pencilplumes left, and Bookstone wouldn't have been any good because I don't have any rituals worth getting back. And I draw the Red Eye Transmigration, which is actually funny. So I activate Transmigrations, then Blue Eye, summon Lord of Red. Like I said, this is a slightly different version from the one I showed in my video where I'm focusing more on Lord of the Red, but I like the one I showed the first time better. That was the one I ended up kind of sitting on after I was done with the event. But this is a neat version to run too. Basically, you just trade you trade like you trade 1 Blue Eyes and 1 Dark Magician or Magician of Chaos for 2 Lord of the Reds, and trade 1 Chaos Forom for a Lord of the Red ritual. And that's it. That's the only things you changed. I threw in a couple of Sonic Birds instead of like one of my Incantation Inceptions and one of my Chaos Monsters, just to have more normal summons for the event quests. And as you can see, I can just keep triggering my Lord of Red off my own cards. Summon Candoll, Candoll effect, pop their card. It's a Mystic Tomato, which is good. It would have floated into another Yubel. And yeah, I can just attack for game down. So yeah, that was game 2, a much grindier game, and it kind of showing the value of a card that's so hard to out, like Chaos Dragon, and the toolbox in the form of just getting a Relinquished and adding an otherwise very hard to out creature in Terror Incarnate and its super powerful floating effect. So yeah, that was game 2. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll have one more game for you next. Alright, and here we are with game 3. This time I'm going second, and this is a pretty solid hand. Manju, an Imp, and you've got the Ritual in hand already, so you can go get Talismandra to get your monster. Pretty much everything you'd like. Chaos Sorcerer is obviously great in a lot of situations, so that probably want to run 3 of this card if I'm being completely honest. It's so good. My opponent's is on the Infinitrack, or the Earth Machine version of the deck in this format, which means they're just going to make Drigolubion and Hard Earth Dragon. Get some gadgets and stuff. Some level modulation. And yeah, that's basically the whole combo. They should like get a really powerful. This is kind of like my Blue Eyes. You know, your opponent cannot target this card with effects. 3,000 attack. It also has 3,000 defense too, which is nice. So yeah, it's kind of like me setting up a Blue Eyes on their turn. And Hard Earth's kind of funny. It's like, you know, you can't attack it basically, and it can attack you to make you do the damage. So what I'm actually going to do here is instead of going for the regular Dark Magician of Chaos line, I'm going to go get a Lord of the Red. The reason is because once I've used my imps and summoned my ritual monster, I'm going to be playing Chaos Sorcerer and triggering his effect to banish the Hard Earth Dragon. So Lord of the Red can't really. The only thing that Lord of the Red can pop is the back row or the Heart of the Dragon, but I'm going to be removing the Heart of the Dragon to trigger the Sorcerer effect. So if I've played Magician of Chaos, it only triggers on spell activation, and I don't want to do that, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm going to go get Lord of the Red, summon Pencilplume, get Talismandra, activate Talismandra, and just get Relinquished. This is a, you know, it's not really great here because it doesn't work on Dragooblion. You know, Dragooblion needs a card that does not target it or outs it in some other way. So, but it's a good backup, and I'm gonna have one imp hanging on depending like on what I do. So you know, I can use this to go get Talismandra after, like use this, get Talismandra, recycle this multiple times. That's that little chain, and this is like maybe your best monster to get in that situation, because I don't want to get Magician of Chaos or Blue Eyes if I don't have the other one. They're kind of like a package deal. Right, so you should get your toolbox cards out because you already got the Impcantation Inception. So I'm going to use my imps on field, and this is important. I use my imps on field instead of in hand for Lord of the Red. I'm going to show you why in just a second. This deck primarily forgoes the extra deck because of the cards like imps, but you can get into situations like this where you use all your imps for material, and you've got like Manju and Chaos Sorcerer, and even a ritual monster on the field. So I go ahead and use Chaos Sorcerer. I can now pop their back row with my Lord of the Red, which clears the way for my next play. I'm going to link off Manju and Chaos Sorcerer because my opponent made the complete fumble move of putting Dragooblion in a Geonator Transverser zone, right? The middle zone or the far right zone, far left for them, lets me, now that I've got a Geonator Transverser on the field, I can just activate Inception, send my Talismandra from deck to grave, go get like a Bookstone or something useless, and then swap them over. And my opponent's going to have a dumb Incantation. I'm going to have a Geonator Transverser. And I can just attack over, and then I've got a Lord of the Red active to pop my opponent's cards anytime they activate anything. And so I activate Impcantation Inception, and they concede because they see what's coming. The writing is on the wall. So yeah, Geonator Transverser, especially in this format, you got to play around it. But that's why you keep it in the deck, because people will make those mistakes and be unaware of it. Because especially if they have auto summon on, they always summon to the middle, like if they're on mobile or something. I think there's a lot of mobile people in this, because I see a lot of people not playing around Transverser. So you better run it for just for fun situations like this. The other way I would out this is I could have just like gone and gotten the Blue Eyes and attacked over it, and then summon Chaos Sorcerer and banished his, or I would have traded, and then just summon Chaos Sorcerer and banish his Hard Earth Dragon. But once they make that mistake, this is my best line of play, right? Because once I pop their back row, they are free for a Geonator Transverser play. So yeah, that was game 3, showing off a little bit of the extra deck fun and like where you would use it despite playing Incantations and them locking you out of the extra deck. All you gotta do is kill your Incantations as ritual material, and it opens up your plays. I hope you guys enjoyed those 3 games. I've had, you know, there's not a whole lot longer in this in our tournament, so I figured I'd get these videos out as soon as I could once I played them. Had a couple people ask me about like how I play this deck, and there you go. That's how I play it. Sometimes you use the extra decks. Sometimes you summon your toolbox cards instead of your Magician and your Dragon. And sometimes you have these really funny, long, grindy games where your dragon is just staring down their weird monster, and you eventually draw into your outs because you have a toolbox. Yeah, so see you guys next time, and maybe if there's another NR Festival, I'll bring this deck back with some updates. Bye!